So basically just remove all your truth from your life.
Don't be authentic. You're going to fake it.
Okay, today we are talking about how to stay relevant in UX and design in 2025. I feel like there's a lot of people talking about a lot of change in our industry right now. Whilst I think everyone's sick of talking about AI and how it's replacing jobs, we're going to go into how to stay relevant and make sure that you're ahead of the game. So we found a lot of older experienced designers are saying things like this: where do old UX designers go? People cutting down their experience years from 20, 25 years down to 10, 15 years. So they don't immediately get shut out of jobs.
That was kind of mad to me when I first saw that. It just wouldn't have even occurred to be like, oh, okay, I need to actually reduce my experience now so that I feel more fresh. So that was a learning experience.
Yeah, I think it's always felt like an asset having a lot of experience, but in tech, things move quickly and you don't want to look stale and old school. So basically just remove all your truth from your life.
Don't be authentic. You're going to fake it. Even though you're not really faking it, because you do have the experience, but you just have to appear younger these days.
Your lack of experience, basically.
Yeah. Well, they want the experience, but maybe they want that kind of fresh drive.
Right.
Or just knowing that someone's staying current. It is that kind of staying relevant in this very fast-moving tech world. But you were saying earlier, Chris, that it's like a full-time job in itself, trying to see what's out there all the time, see what's changing.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of exhausting and overwhelming. And I think a lot of people go into LinkedIn and immediately close it just because all you're fed day in, day out now is people saying, this is my new process, do this, do that. And you just feel, wow, you feel left behind a little bit. We work in a studio, so we feel like we're always on the edge of technology and making sure that we have the answer for our clients and we know what tools they're going to be talking about. We need to have experience in them. It's a lot to keep up with. There's new tools coming out every day. I was quite interested when I came across a LinkedIn post. It was more of a positive spin on UX roles and how we UXify finding those tools and using them to max out efficiency and be helpful. We had a quick chat and her process was to find the pain point in your process, find your biggest time sink, and then find tools that will fit those time sinks and filter them down. So for us, we use Reddit sometimes. She uses Discord communities to find these tools that are actually helping people. Then test it for a week or however long you need. And then for us to decide whether it's earned that right to stay or whether you pivot to another one. So that way it becomes less overwhelming because there's a legit purpose to them rather than just randomly feeling overwhelmed by all these tools that are coming out. You should be using this and you should be using that attitude.
Yeah, I really like to kind of looking at the community aspects as well. She mentioned Discord and you said Reddit. You could just join other communities that you're interested in. Currently, I'm part of the AI Figma beta Slack channel. I was talking to other like-minded people interested in Figma's AI capabilities. So find communities that you can engage with and get on board and find new ideas.
Yeah, I think it makes sure that if you come away from these areas, these spaces, and you feel overwhelmed and exhausted, then try and find areas where you're coming away from them and feeling energized and excited.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point. If it's pulling you down, let it go. Find the ones that bring you up.
So we thought we'd just do an example of this with our process. We think has a lot of value. That real-time wireframing with our clients works really well, but the output could be richer and more detailed.
We've really got 90 minutes when we're doing these workshops. So we're packing a lot of value into a short amount of space. So that's why those block frames are really good. It lets you be agile. But actually, if we can make them even more higher fidelity to foster more interesting conversations, then even better.
Lucy does this quite a bit. Check gaps in her designs. She'll drop it into Claude. And I think it's a sanity check, making sure that you've covered all your bases and there aren't opportunities you might have missed. When we have a discussion with a client, a lot of ideas get covered in the meeting. Sometimes if you come back to that 2 or 3 days later, you're not going to remember every single one. AI is very good at capturing meeting notes and summarizing those things. That is one area that makes sense and we try and do that. But taking that a step further, I was speaking to another designer that captured the before or state of the design when they started and then outputted the updated design so that he could come back to the original discussion, update the design, and then summarize all of the reasons that design had been changed and why. So you've got this story arc of the design and its change and the value that had been delivered.
I think as a tool to look back on, but also to keep the client aligned every step of that process, and then it stops at, did I say that or did I not say that? Whereas, we've got it there black and white, everybody knows what's going on, and it keeps things smooth.
So the final one is like you've got information and communications across so many different channels, from email to LinkedIn to Slack to all kinds of communication channels. You've got knowledge in FigJam, you've got it all over the place. And I think that can quickly feel overwhelming. You feel like you've got to keep an eye on all of these different channels. It would be really powerful to be able to unify all that communication information into one place on a project and client level. So far, I don't think there was anything that does that well. There was a tool called Campsite by Brian Lovin that I think attempted to do that. However, Notion have pinched him and his team. So that's going to die a death, sadly.
But if anyone knows of anything, let us know.
Yes.
We'd love to try it out.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments.
Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to dive into the first one as an example today, richer wireframing live with a tool called UX Pilot. This will be for a fairly simple example project. It is a mobile app. Imagine we've come in through the persona, so we have a deep understanding of the persona and what they're trying to get out of it in this case. It is someone that has a set of skincare products and they want to check that it's effective for the money they're paying. So a lot of the people we found are quite happy to spend money as long as the product is effective and produces results as promised. What this app does is use a science-backed approach to assess the list of those products and then weighs them and balances the scoring of effectiveness versus the cost of that product and then gives it a score. He was in a state where he needed scale and he could start monetizing, and he wasn't sure how to do that.
I was kind of that primary persona where I was like, I'm spending lots of money on skincare and I don't know if it's actually doing anything. He's building in public on Reddit, and I thought I'd give it a go. And my skincare wasn't good. Well, not as effective, but how much I was paying for it anyway.
Oh, that we can tell. Hey, guys. Anyway, I think what we want to prompt here is a user comes into the app and is able to quickly add a list of their skincare products, which analyze. Then they'll see a loading screen while it analyzes, followed by a results. We then need a way to encourage the user to pay to see alternative products. We also want to ensure
We want to be able to share our results here. I've captured that.
results at the end result screen. All right.
Okay, so based on the context, it's come up with a kind of suggested flow.
Start adding the skincare analysis results of skincare products, including skin insights and recommendations. Right. Okay. There's 3 screens. That should be what we want. Is there anything missing from this? Start adding 1 or more. Okay. So it's obviously done the mobile app sizing. Right away, this pretty hi-fi wires, which is cool. It's got a very clear basket type looking adding flow.
It always feels like an upload flow, doesn't it? Rather than typing or searching.
That's true. Analyzing products, checking ingredients and value for money. Nice and simple. It's kept to 3 points, which is good. You don't want to overload people.
They've done that really well.
And how much time it takes. And then the results, you've got the routine score. It's got your routine is good, but could be optimized for better results and value. That's nice.
I actually like the overall score of your routine. That's quite a nice way of doing it, rather than just the all on. They have got the individual products too, which is valuable, but I do like that it just gives a overarching view.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then it's got the product analysis, the summary and score of each product in a visual of the bar listed out, with better alternatives at the bottom, and then a fairly generic share results icon. I think that's okay. I think that's where you put a bit more time maybe as a designer to think about how you could make that a bit more enticing.
Yeah, a bit more engaging. But there's some nice bits they put throughout there, nice ideas.
Yeah.
I like the exclusive access to expert recommendations to really pull you into the premium. That's a nice trust signal.
Okay. And then I think this could work as a nice process. If we're doing this with the client and the prompting, then I think we'd say things like that first product thing does feel a little bit It feels nice that you could quickly add a product, but telling them that they can search to find it is probably the slickest way of doing it. It provides some affordance as to what to expect next versus an ad, which feels more like an upload. So I think we'd say add your first product. Good. Ideally, yield where the user can search.
And they can add a URL to the product if it doesn't exist. You could show an example result. Sharing that example result screen on the homepage is nice, so people understand what they can expect at that next step.
I'm thinking now it might be a little bit slow for client work.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Although people are suggesting prompts, I feel very much, it doesn't feel as collaborative as drawing stuff together.
You're on your own, Chris.
Yeah, I feel a bit on my own.
Aw.
He's done the preview. I think that would confuse people, if anything, to be honest. It needs to look very much like an example.
Yeah, it could have had an image. It just needs a complete rework with that.
Yeah, I don't think many changes need to do that, especially as a wireframe anyway. For this page, I think routine score, it works nicely.
Yeah, it's got a good flow to it, hasn't it? You've kind of got the information architecture's right. That bottom part of the page needs a little bit more work.
I think there's a missing link there as well between what they can expect from that premium. I think a lot of people see that big button and not really understand why would I upgrade at this point. It's missing that piece. The fidelity is higher. At the wireframing stage, I feel like it's missing some of the value of the collaborative wireframing, honestly. This maybe would be better if we'd done the wireframing collaboratively, brought it in, and then use this to upgrade those wireframings to something like a nicer looking deliverable.
Yeah, it feels like those initial block wireframes, you can't really skip those because they are the building blocks of co-creation and getting those ideas together. If you've got 10 minutes, jump into here and then see it in a higher fidelity.
Yeah, I think that could fit in quite well, because if we'd done the block framing, we could come into here, probably dump the images in here quite quickly that we created, just as screenshots maybe. So let's show the block frames. This is what we came up with, way lower fidelity. But the important thing is the thinking in here. Each one of these is a screen and a flow. We've got the example like a spend slider and a type ahead as the input device. And then the result screen where we've got the grades, the products. We also wanted to bring in this concept of monthly spend, which is where we can show values. We will show you what they're currently paying. And if the grade is bad, here's a better alternative and how much you could save. You're coming at it from, I'm saving money, but also getting something better for my money. If you're saving $150 a year and then $20, it becomes a bit of a no-brainer to upgrade. And that kind of thinking is what was missing in the wireframes, that depth of thinking about price anchoring and things like that.
And that kind of strategy came out through a collaborative conversation between all of us who were working on these block frames, and all these ideas were coming around and everyone was bouncing ideas off of others. You just don't get that with, say, something like UX Pilot, because it is almost like that silo. You're just adding in this prompt and then it's doing its own thing. It shows that collective mindset where you can really get the juices flowing and the ideas one up each other as you go on. It's a really fun and exciting working with a client like that.
It's the combination of minds working together is really powerful. So yeah, that's where we came up with the community funnel as well, because it felt like once we'd gone through the 3 screens, they're like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to upgrade right now. You give them another option where they could still get value, but they don't have to pay anything. So that's where the community came up with. So yeah, exploring the tools that we could maybe look at. I think in this instance, it's taken us 10 minutes to test this idea, this tool, and see where it fits and if it would add enough value for us. In this case, I don't think it would. I think if we could have brought the images in and fit it into our process in a natural way, then maybe we may have taken it on board and used it.
Yeah, that one was more like a nice to have rather than something that's going to take our process to the next level.
Yeah, and it's not,
improve it.
If anything, it's made it a bit slower. So I think that's how we should be evaluating our tools now. What other designers are doing is really useful. Ultimately, you can't spend your life trying every product and changing every part of your process. Just change the things that have the biggest impact
And that's how you stay relevant and up to date.
In 2025.
Boom!